Hi there, beautiful teachers. If you were on with me just a second ago, sorry we got cut off there for a second. It's great to chat to you again today, this fabulous Tuesday. What I want to talk to you today is all about chords, because this is one of those things that maybe I didn't teach all that well until recently. I certainly approached chords from the theory standpoint, but chords aren't tested or anything like that in exams, so they're not that commonly a standard part of our routine. And I would do chord activities from time to time, certainly over the last few years, but this year I got really, really serious and really good at diligently teaching chords to a lot of my tween and teen students. So that's what I want to chat to you about today in this little mini training, is all about what activities I'm using to teach these students and how that's working. And the way I'm doing this, a lot of this type of work these days, is actually during my buddy lesson time, which is the overlapping time I have between students. So student A comes, for their private lesson time, they stay, student B comes, and they have some time together before student A leaves and student B stays for their lesson. So they have that overlapping time in the middle. I call this buddy lessons, and I'm giving a whole webinar about this next week. So I want to tell you about that because it's going to be fantastic. It's going to be really actionable, and also because I'm going to be going through an entire chord teaching plan, which was just released on the Vibrant Music teaching site yesterday. This is what it looks like. So this is a comprehensive PDF that I have on the Vibrant Music teaching site with full plans like that. Now you can see it. And these are new plans that I'm calling But the Pieces plans. So if you're a Vibrant Music teaching member and you haven't gone and checked this out, please do. I'm so excited about these, and I'm already getting a lot of buzz back from members, and they're having a great time with it too. The idea of these plans has been to take something that isn't just repertoire, so anything else but the pieces, right? Anything other than repertoire. And I'm breaking that down in a way where you can use that plan for a section of your private lesson time, or for this overlapping buddy time, section of your group lesson, anything like that. So that's what the pieces plans are all about, and they're super fun, and they include lots of things from the Vibrant Music Teaching Library. So if you're a member, go check them out right now. If you're not a member, check out the membership if you want to get involved and grab those plans. But this webinar, which is on next week, next Tuesday, at almost this time, it'll be at 5 p.m. here in my time zone, which is GMT. So that's at 12 p.m. in New York, which is 9 a.m. in LA, isn't it? So if you're in Australia, it's going to be the middle of the night, but you can still sign up and you'll get the replay. Sorry to have inconvenienced you that you can't watch it live, but that's the way these time zone things go. So I'm going to be going through my whole new But the Pieces plan on that webinar, which is called the 6-week chord crash course. And today I want to share with you some of the activities that are in that plan that are how I'm teaching chords to my students these days really effectively. And I mean, they're getting really good with them, right? They're like late beginner, early intermediate students mostly that I'm doing this with, and they're getting really comfortable with chords, which is fantastic. And it's completely opening up this whole new area of piano to them. So the first activity that we do in my lessons is keyboard mapping. And this is the way I like to introduce inversions and also chords in general. So what we do is we get little erasers or little tokens of any kind and lay them out on the keys. And the reason I like doing this is, especially younger students, when you talk about the tones and semitones or the patterns of whole steps, half steps, whatever way you like to talk about chord layouts, when you do that and they have their hand over the keys, I find they often miscount. Do you ever find that? They miscount it because they have their finger on the keys. Whereas if you get a little hedgehog guy, right, and you have him on D, and you count up 1, 2, 3, 4, or whichever way you want to count it, 1, 2, 3, it's much easier to see that the hedgehog is moving like that, and then they get the pattern and they get used to finding it that way, and they get really good at it. The reason I love this for inversions is because you get them to lay out the root position chord, and then you say, what if we put that D up the top? What if we moved him up there? And then they try out how it sounds, they get to explore, but they've seen it visually first, and it makes sense to them that it's the same thing, same ingredients in a different order. So keyboard mapping is a big part of how I do this and how I introduce these concepts, because students get to experience them rather than me telling them, right? The next one that is key to the success of my chord heroes in my studio is iReal Pro. Now, I talked about this app a few times, and actually it was in the most recent quick clip. So that was last Thursday on the blog. It'll be like the second post down. If you go to colourfulkeys.com, you get to the blog, you'll see it that way. And I showed me and my student working with iReal Pro in that and working on chord drill. So you can see it in action there. What we do is we practice the chords with iReal Pro in all different styles at all different speeds. And we do white keys going from C to C. So they have to play all the major chords, C, D, E, etc. and back down. So they get comfortable with those. Then we do them chromatically. So they're going C, D flat, D, E flat, etc. all the way up and all the way down. And then we go by the circle of fifths. So that's where they have to jump around, and they really have to know their major chords by then. And I do all of this in the chord crash course, in those plans and in my own lessons, before we even talk about minors. So they completely get majors before we talk about minors. And my favorite way to introduce those minors is, again, to do that keyboard mapping, and then to do a game such as Don't Minor My Major, where they're moving them from major into minor. And that one is in the Vibrant Music Teaching Library as well. And they get to practice the difference in the semitones or the half steps there as well. So playing lots of games is another thing I love to do to make my students into chord heroes. I have one here. This isn't Don't Major My Minor. This Minor My Major rather. This is Inversion Diversion. So that's one when we're dealing with inversions, which is a little bit further along in the chord crash course. But they get all the way to inversions in 6 weeks in that plan. So it's really, really, it drills in on everything they need to know about the chords and how they can conquer them, sort of, how they can really find their way around them and feel really, really confident with them. Thank you for all those lovely faces that are popping up on the screen. Those are so fun. I love seeing all the hearts and the shocked faces and everything. Keep them coming. So that's the first three. We've got keyboard mapping, then we have iReal Pro, and then we have games. And if they're playing games, they get to experience these things in different ways. And then we do some jump tests. And what I mean by jump tests is that they have to go immediately to the correct chord. And we do this with the majors and the minors. My favorite way to do this is actually with these chord grids, okay? So these were shared on the blog less than a year ago, but quite a while ago, a few months ago, I'd say. And what I've shared there is there's these versions. These show the pattern of white and black keys. So they help kids to find their way around and notice the patterns of the keys. You'll see F sharp there is all black, E, black in the middle, etc. And then there's versions which are just completely random as well, which are just all white like that. So what I use these for is I put them on the stand, and I'll usually put on a metronome or a drummer or something like that so that they have to stay in time. And I point to one, and then I point to the next one, and then I point to the next one. You could also do it that they're not having to come in on time, but that they have to stay for 90 seconds or whatever it is and try and get as many as they possibly can. That's actually the way I do it in the chord crash course, is that they have to get as many chords as they possibly can, and there's major and minor versions of those. So they progress from the pattern version of the sheets where they can see the white and black patterns and get to know them. We talk about snowmen and chocolate sandwiches and what's the other one? Oreos. So that they're finding their way around and noticing the patterns of the chords as well. So I said I would share 4 tips with you, but I kind of have a bonus tip for you, okay? And that is to get them making chord progressions. And Tim Tobin's site is amazing for this. I mean, I take a lot of inspiration from the way he handles this. and using the circle of fifths and coming up with their own chord progressions based on, the 6 chords that are likely, ignoring the diminished chord, right? 6 chords that are likely to come up in that key, and exploring all the different keys, and they're doing a bit of composing, and they're getting even more familiar with the chords and learning what they're for, right? They're for creating progressions and harmonies and enjoying them. So that's a great way to get them involved with the chords, get them interacting with them as well. So let me run through those 4/5 tips again. We've got keyboard mapping, then iReal Pro, then the jump test where they're getting really speedy with their major and their minor chords, playing lots of games with them like Don't Minor My Major or Inversion Diversions, and then also creating chord progressions. All of that is covered in the 6-week chord crash course, which is available now on the Vibrant Music Teaching site. It takes you the whole way through, and like I said, you can use this for buddy lesson time like I do, where it's the overlapping lesson, and you can take 2 students together on a whole chord crash course. You could use it as a segment equally well of a private lesson or a small group lesson. So all of the activities are designed to work equally well with 1 student or 2, and you could easily adapt them for 6, right? Because you could pair students up. So that's easy peasy to do. And I'm going to be recording videos this week to go more in depth. That's a little surprise. Lots of members don't know that, but I'm going to record videos of the whole chord crash course this week to explain it even further and take people all the way through all of the lessons so they really know what they're doing and they feel really confident implementing these ideas in their lessons. Now, if you want to get started with buddy lessons, overlapping lessons, partner lessons, anything where you might have 2 students together, or you want to make any big change in your studio, actually, you need to come along to this webinar. So it's next week. It's 5 p.m. It's 4:45 now here in Dublin. So it's around 15 minutes from right now. If you're watching this live, if you're catching the replay, you'll be able to see the timestamp. It's 15 minutes from right now, 5 p.m. next Tuesday. That's the 3rd of April. And that is 12 p.m. noon New York time. So hopefully you'll be able to come along live. I'm going to drop the link in here now. It is vibrantmusicteaching.com/buddy switch, because I'm going to be giving full details on not just what you do with your buddy lessons and the chord crash course, and talking you through how I'd use that in buddy lessons, but also how to plan out and structure them. So what do you do about the cost? What are the fees going to be? How are you going to communicate this with parents and get the students on board and get the whole thing started? So I'm going to go through absolutely everything that you need to know, basically, and detailed plans on what you could actually do with these students once you get them, so that you feel really confident that, yeah, I know how I would handle these buddy lessons. I see how they would be so useful. And the key thing for me is it gives me extra time with my students without costing the parents too much, right? So it's just been one of the greatest changes I've made. I've talked about it a bit on the blog. There's a couple of posts there if you search, but come along to that webinar next week, because I think you're going to love it. And like I say, even if you want to make any change, if you want to move to group lessons, if you want to bring in group workshops, a large chunk of that is actually going to be really relevant to you, because I'm giving tips for how to introduce these things to parents, get them on board, and how to plan it all out and get it off to the best possible start, right? So I really think it's going to be fantastic, and it's going to be super actionable. And of course, there's going to be bonuses and all that good stuff. And I'll tell you a bit more about vibrantmusicteaching.com if you've been curious about the membership there and all that as well. So sign up. I hope to see you there, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye for now.